Welcome to the Matt Beck Podcast. Woke up this way. He's got a lot of cool stuff he's gonna show you today. The latest news, industry topics, and business tips. For all hairstylists and salon owners, it's time to flip the script. Grab your precision scissors, barber combs, and swivel twist razors. Let's cut a bob, a quick shag, pixie cut with a little bit of flavor. Check out the live classes, product reviews, let's rock on. Don't forget to check out freesaloneducation.com. I woke up this way. It's gonna be a great day.
What's up, guys?
Chop it, clip it, spray it, flip it. I woke up this way.
So excited to be hanging out with you guys today on this wonderful Wednesday. I got a really fun show planned for you guys. So what we're going to be working on today is breaking down the bob. We've talked about this in past episodes, and a lot of you guys have requested a full show about the bob. And so not only am I going to be showing you guys some different things on cutting bobs, but I've also got Andrew Carruthers lined up, and I've got Josh DeMarco lined up. Some really great videos. They're going to help explain every aspect of cutting a bob and what it's all about. So I can see you guys in the chat. Gene, Lynn, let's see, Ashley, Vanessa, Kristen. What's up, everybody? So thank you guys so much for joining. If you could do me one favor and just hit the share button, let's get this thing rolling. Let's get as many people on the show as possible, and that would be awesome. And then also remember to go download the FSE Now app, because that is the number one goal right now, is to get all of you guys on the app and becoming part of that community and sharing your work. So before we start today's video, I want to roll what the app is all about. I really want to promote it today, get you guys going on there. So here is the FSE Now app. Check it out. Here we go. So me and my wife, Christina, who's my business partner, we worked on that thing to build the new website, the new app. We worked on it for the last 10, 11 months from the ground up, build it from scratch. So it's a website dedicated to growing the hairdresser. So you go on there, you create a free profile, you share your work. There's a way to upload it. You can create your own profile gallery so that other stylists can look at it, send you messages, like your stuff. And also watch all of our education videos on there as well. And then all of that information gets put onto a website called Stylist Locator. So if you're not a stylist and you happen to watch this video, stumble upon it, go to stylistlocator.com, put in your zip code, and it'll bring up a bunch of stylist profiles in your area so that you can send them a message and get your hair done by somebody that actually focuses on education. And that's what it's all about. So we're building this community. Thank you guys so much for being live with me today. Love seeing you guys all in the chat, getting to know each other. It's cool that you guys are coming on there saying hello to each other, because we're doing this every day live at 12 o'clock Eastern time. So be a part of it. It's so fun. So last but not least, just go share it. Hit the share button. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to get into today's subject, which is all about the bob. So if you guys have questions about it, post those in the chat so that I can go through and answer those throughout the show. But we're really going to break down the different things that happen during a bob. We're going to take a graduated bob and we're going to make it a layered bob. We're going to show you tips from Josh DeMarco about removing some weight and creating that really fine point in the back of a bob. We're going to cut a triangular bob with a razor. We're going to focus on why you get a hole behind the ear. So many different things are going to be packed into this show. That's why I'm so excited about it. So I want to kick it off with Josh DeMarco's video. We shot this in the studio. It's a really awesome video because it sums up a lot of different tips within just a short 10-minute video. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Keep the chat going. Obviously, share this thing. And here we go. Here's the video.
Hey guys, I'm Josh DeMarco. I'm a hairstylist and educator, and today I'm up at Free Salon Education with Mizutani Scissors. We're gonna film a really classic graduated bob and show you guys some tips and tricks on how to sharpen up your lines and make sure your graduation is very balanced and perfect. So I started the haircut with using my comb on the jawline, and a great tip is that if you put the comb on the jaw and wrap it around, you'll find the occipital bone. And what's important is you can find the angle at which to put your graduation. So today I did triangular graduation. If the graduation doesn't sit in the right spot, it can really throw off your head shape. So a great tip is to use your comb to get your first angled line. Also, I started the center back. Now a lot of times when you graduate a haircut, you kind of go from your new section to your guide. But what happens is, unless you're really trained, you're always going to over-direct the new section into the section you're about to cut, which after multiple sections, there's too much over-direction, making your shape sit. It goes from really tight to really long too fast. So what I do is I'm going through the haircut and I'm taking my guide into section. That way I'm always cutting the hair directly out from the head, which will make sure that I'm very balanced and I do not over-direct. After taking my vertical section on graduation, you'll notice when I get to the mastoid, which is this part of the head, that I drop my elevation. That is not an over direction, that is just dropping the elevation, so I'm not cutting the hair up where it doesn't grow, I'm cutting the hair where it hangs naturally. So by dropping that elevation, I preserve this part of the haircut, which is a very common area where stylists will cut too short. Then in refinement, the only way to fix it is to keep shortening the haircut to compensate for the hole you gave. So a huge tip is make sure you drop your elevation in the mastoid, this part of the head, and that's going to preserve that length because that length is what's going to connect to the side of your bob. After I set the graduation in, from vertical slims the shape. So after slimming the shape and getting above the occipital bone, I start to take horizontal sections. I'm taking horizontal sections because I want to build weight. If you want to graduate hair and you want a really nice heavy shape, you want to set the weight horizontal. Think about a shirt, right? Vertical slims, horizontal widens. So I wanted to really be able to see my graduation right at the occipital bone. So I start to take parallel, diagonal forward sections, working up to right above the ear. Once I get above the ear, instead of finishing the back and connecting the side, I'm going to keep my shape triangular the whole entire time. So my sections go from back to front in one continual section. Now, after I set in my sections, I'm going to sharpen my line. Here's the key, and this is an amazing tip. If you make your section a certain angle, make sure you cut the hair at that exact angle. What does that mean? If I'm doing a square shape, I don't want to cut like this. I want to cut like this. So you'll notice I do a triangular shape, so I'm cutting triangular. My comb or my fingers is going to mimic my section. That'll make sure that you stay balanced through your haircut and that you always keep your shape the same. Afterwards, I work through the whole entire head, doing horizontal sections until I come up to the parting. Another tip, it's important to know the difference between a parting and a section. Parting is where you wear your hair, a section is what you're cutting. So after I set my basic shape, you'll notice on my graduation that the nape looks kind of dirty and not refined. This is because we're going to do refinement when the hair is dry. So a really good tip is knowing that your final shape and the precision part of the haircut is going to come after you blow dried the hair. So don't worry, don't get stressed out about making the most straight line of your life while the hair is wet, because when it's dry, you can really refine that. I chose to flat wrap the hair because I did not want any elevation. So I go around and I teach haircuts a lot. And the one thing I notice is hairdressers that are learning this will cut a really beautiful shape and then they'll get a round brush and they'll elevate the hair. The second you elevate the hair on a haircut like this, you are distorting the shape. So you want to make sure that you wrap the brush, whether it's a paddle brush, a Denman brush, or a vest brush. You want to wrap the hair around the head. The haircut's going to build itself. Guys, you have to remember, graduation builds weight. So I don't need a round brush to make that shape. I can flat wrap the head and the head along with the haircut is going to give me the perfect shape that I want. When I go through the haircut after I blow dry, I chose to do a quick flat iron pass just to smooth the hair. Then you'll notice in the back of the haircut that it gets really heavy, right? Like I said earlier, we built a horizontal shape. A great tip to soften the shape is go through section by section on dry hair. Hold the hair tight in your fingers. Make sure your fingers do not overlap. This will cause either layering. If your pointer finger goes over your middle finger, it'll layer the hair. And if it goes under, it'll make the top too long for the hair. So what you really want to do is grab an even section. Elevation softens your finish. Remember that. So why do we elevate hair? Think about layers. Everybody wants volume, they think layers. But layers does not give you volume. The round brush that you put in the hair gives you volume. So I can take that and soften it just by elevating. When I do this, you notice that I'm cutting parallel to my fingers and I'm just almost making sawdust, right? Nothing major. My haircut is in shape. I'm really just trying to soften my line by squeezing tension on the dry hair and elevating while I cut. The finger and blade parallel to each other. That'll soften the back of the haircut. I then take an oval shape around the crown of the head, and I'll cut that at the angle that the hair is pulled vertically. So when the hair is down and lifts up, I don't want to layer this haircut, but I want to be able to fan out the hair and soften the bevel of my line. So by following my fingers and my scissors, I elevate with the hair, I get to crispen up my line, and I soften my finish. The problem is when you graduate hair and you don't go in and refine it and soften it, it tends to look really heavy. Some also maybe wedge, like a wedge. That is not what I want to do here. After going through the haircut, I go section by section on the side of the head. Here's a big tip for the side of the head. Don't ever let your client have their head down when you were cutting the line, because when their hair comes up, you'll blow out the front of the head. So the head should either be straight or tilted. That's really just a great way to make sure that you don't lose the front of the haircut. If you're doing a triangular shape, a triangular bob, and that piece isn't longer in the front, you ruin the haircut. So it's a great way to make sure that you stay safe and that you don't cut the front too short. After refining my line, here's a great tip. It doesn't matter how sharp your scissors are, try point cutting. Scissors push hair if you go parallel with them. So if you really want to refine a little bit of a line, just chip at it with the point of the scissor. That'll really sharpen your line. When point cutting hair, you want to make sure that you hold even tension when you pull the hair out. Notice that I'm going parallel into the way the hair grows. If I angle my scissor, I'm going to take too much hair out and destroy my line. So I just want to soften my line. You don't always need a point cut, but when you do, that's a great way to do it. So even tension, even elevation, and make your scissor go parallel into the hair. If you angle your scissor, which may be desired, you're just going to cut more hair out and distort your line. The greatest tips when you cut this haircut is knowing that elevation controls your finish. No elevation, blunt line. Higher elevation, either graduation or layering. So elevation controls your finish. Tension is also really important because too much tension can make the hair jump. When you want to set out to make a line, minimum tension is your best friend. So don't get in the habit of pulling the hair on the side of the head. It'll be too much tension and your line will jump. You'll notice in the back that I chose to do some slide cutting. The reason I chose slide cutting is because I wanted to soften the top of the hair just to have movement, so it's not just such a solid shape. As beautiful it is to do these haircuts and to make them look perfect, people aren't going to wear their haircut that perfect. You want the hair to fall into place when it's done. And honestly, the most important thing is we can make the hair look amazing, but it's how they're going to make the hair look when they're wearing it. So by slide cutting the hair, it's going to add movement to the hair and it's going to soften a lot of the one length on top. Notice when I do my graduation, I keep really blunt lines. My hand and my section are parallel to my cutting. The reason I do that is because I don't want to build this whole entire shape and go in and point cut it to death or cut at an angle, because that's just going to collapse my shape. And you have to remember, graduation builds weight. If I'm going to spend the time to graduate a hair to build the weight, I don't want to spend a lot of time taking away all the weight that I've just built. So today I showed you guys how to use Mizutani scissors. You'll notice my hand position. It's really important right off the bat, whether you're new or whether you're a seasoned hairdresser, thumb control is key. I want to control my scissors. I don't want a cookie monster when I cut. Just my thumb. Once you get your thumb technique down with simply controlling your thumb, everything else will come secondary. You can take stress off the wrist by changing the shape of your scissor. No matter how you put your scissor, you gotta control your thumb. That'll really help you become a much better hair cutter, because guys, when we cut hair, we want to control the hair. We don't want the hair to control us. I want to thank Mizutani Scissors for making the best scissors in the world. These scissors have helped me be able to achieve the haircuts that I want. And I want to thank Matt Beck and Free Salon Education for giving me the opportunity to make this awesome video. I hope you guys learned a lot. Listen guys, there's one thing to remember. Education will always get you further, and all the knowledge I have, I love to give to you because I would like to pay it forward. We got to keep the industry strong, give out the education. You can find me, my name is Josh DeMarco once again. You can follow me on Instagram at Hair DeMarco, Hair DeMarco. Thanks guys.
So that was Josh DeMarco, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed him. He's definitely, I've worked with Josh for a long time. Super talented stylist, and honestly, he's probably even better today than he was then. So I can only imagine. Salon owner in Philadelphia. Again, talented guy. So follow him on Instagram at Hair DeMarco. When you get there, tell him that you saw his video on Free Salon Education. That'd be cool. All right, so we're gonna keep everything going. I hope you guys liked that first one. Trust me, I got a lot more packed into this. So let's see. So I got a Sam Villa video from Andrew Carruthers coming up. How to prevent excess weight in a bob. Also, I'm gonna cut a triangular bob with a razor. And I'm going to teach you guys how to not get that hole in the back of the haircut. So if you guys have any questions, post those. Now, I got Ashley's comment up here. I should have talked about that right away. But she's saying, I'm always self-conscious that other clients and stylists are going to judge my work before I'm done. You know, this is like it's the truth. It's one of those things that for me, I could totally understand where you're coming from. But what I want stylists to understand is that if somebody's judging your work before it's done and you're in the middle of the process, then they just don't understand haircutting. Because what I always thought when I would first cut hair and I would cut a bob is that it didn't look right after I would get it blown dry from the wet cut. And then I realized that there's so much detail work that goes into the dry portion of working that outer perimeter line, skinnying up a little bit of that weight that you build up, like all these definite like detail tips that Josh put in there. That's what makes his end result look so good. So just understand that when you're going into cutting, don't worry about the people around you. The end result will speak for itself. So I want to get in. We're going to do a triangular bob with a razor. Let's switch things up a little bit. I think you guys will dig this video for sure. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments as we go. We'll do it. But this is a cut that I did, triangular bob. So hope you guys like it. Here it is. All right, so we're going to start off by prepping the hair with Donald Scott Prepare. The cool thing about this product is it prepares the hair for cutting with a razor. It gives you a little bit of control with your sectioning and adds a lot of shine to your end result. So we're going to mist that all over the hair, really focus it towards the ends to mid shaft where we're going to be cutting. And then I'm going to start off my sectioning. We're going to do a straight back vertical section all the way down center back, separating the left and the right side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the head in half. So right at the division point, high point of the head down to directly over the ear and separate the front and back. So we basically create the 4 quadrants that we learn. The very first thing that we learn in beauty school is to separate all those 4 quadrants. The great thing about doing that is you're really focusing on each corner of the head. So the way I'm going to section off the 2 front quadrants of the head is I'm going to go through and do a braid. And what that's going to do for me is just get the hair out of the face, but also gives me a focal point of where the hair is going to fall. So as I'm cutting into the back, I can kind of see where the hair is in the front. So we'll braid off this section as well. And like I said, this is going to be very simple, but the sectioning is really important. So if you don't do the sectioning correct, and then you go in and do this cut, you're not going to get the same result. So these 2 sections in the back are the most vital sections because you want to go right at the occipital bone. So we're going to draw a vertical line down center back, and then we're going to draw across the occipital bone to behind the ear. Now it's really important that you focus on that occipital bone, and I'm going to kind of go through a couple scenarios here as well, because if they had thicker, more dense hair, what I would do is still make sure that I'm working at the occipital bone, but I would have heavier strokes with the razor, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I would want to keep my sectioning the same, and the reason for that is because we're working off the bone structure of the head. So the occipital bone is where it kind of curves in. So the elevation that I'm holding the section needs to stay similar, but the strokes of the razor are what's going to create more or less density as we work through. So you'll see slight diagonal forward with that parting, 2 directly behind the ear, and then I'm going to add a little bit of prepare to this section as well. And I'm going to go through the carving comb. So this is the carving comb tool if you've never seen it. This one has wide teeth on it. It has a 50% cut side and a 100% cut side. So if you want to cut structure in a haircut, you can do that. And then on the opposite side of the carving comb, you're going to just debulk and take out weight, create layers. We're going to use both sides of the carving comb as we work through this haircut. So a couple key points to really focus on here is see how thick that section is that I took. It's about the width of the carving comb. This way I don't have to work back and forth on the section. And also, as I go in to cut, you'll see I have a nice low elevation on it, and I'm going about an inch back and forth with the carving comb. That's going to create a nice shattered line. But if I went heavier with that, it would create more of a layered effect. So what I'm looking for is to use the head shape. So if you see how the occipital bone kind of curves down, because of the angle that I'm holding the hair and that 1 inch kind of path that I'm moving the carving comb on, that's giving me more of a graduated feel. There'll be a little bit of layering towards the bottom, but we're going to go in and pinch cut that at the end. You can see that bevel that happens, and that's all because of the head shape. So if I were to take this entire back down and do it, I could, but I would have to change my elevations a little bit. It's easier to break up the back into 2 sections. So occipital bone down, we have a nice low elevation, and now we're going to work occipital bone up to the high point of the head. So everything's going to come back towards me. Now you're going to see my elevation shift. You can see where I find my guideline from the bottom. So I just grab a piece just to check it. But this is a razor cut. It's got a little bit more freedom. There's going to be a lot more texture in it. So you see your guide, but it doesn't have to be exact. And you can see how those strokes on the razor are going to work and the elevation that I'm going to take this section up. So much higher elevation. The reason for that is you can see as it's coming off of the head, it's still working at a similar elevation to the first section. The head shape is just different and that it's more curved up. So I need to elevate the hair more. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with a really heavy result. And that's not what we're looking for in this cut. So literally we cut that entire side of the head in 2 sections really quickly. And that's what I like about this technique and the carving comb is it allows you the freedom if you're looking for a more textured look, but still with structure. As long as you understand the head shape, you can go in and quickly do these haircuts and get a result that it would take you a while with scissors to cut a precision shape and then go in and texturize it a bunch to get this exact look when you can really do it in just a couple sections. So now we're going to comb out the side, and key thing I want you to focus on here is you could cut this straight across if you want to. You can cut it more at an angle. This is really the client's preference or your preference, whatever you're working for. But to go through, I'm going to add a little bit of an angle to the front because I like that disconnection. And then I go through and I use the 50% carved side to just add a little bit of layering and take out a little bit of the weight in the sides. If they had really dense hair, you could go in a little more aggressively with that as well. So we cut our angle, and then I go in with the 50% carved side and just take out some weight. Now we're going to work with Paul Mitchell Fast Form. This is a quick drying product, so it's just something if I want to add shine to the hair and dry the hair quickly, I put this product in. We'll work it through, scalp to ends, and then once I get it in the hair, then I'm going to go through and brush it. We're using the Ergo paddle brush through the hair just to get the hair saturated every little bit with the product so we get the best result. Now we're going to work a flat wrap technique, wrapping the hair around the head, adding that shine, getting the flexibility in the cuticle. We're going to create 2 different styles with this, more of a smooth style, and then I'm going to show you guys a style with a little more volume and texture at the end. So I want to have a flexible base and so that I don't have any calyx in the hair, and we're going to go through and do a little bit of dry cutting with the razor as well. So you'll see I'm leafing the hair, really focused on the base. So when you leaf the hair, you're pulling extra tension on the base of the hair, which is going to give you more control. And then I'll get that flexibility that I'm looking for in the end result. Same thing in the back. So you'll see I'm brushing the hair up, but then I come back down. You don't want to blow dry the hair in one direction. You also want to make sure that you never blow dry the hair and leave that parting in there. You want to go back and forth over the parting, and that'll give you an even consistency within the base. What I really want you guys to see in this part is how that shape's really unfolding. So it has a precise look to it. It definitely has a textured feel. It's very soft, and I think that that's what a lot of people like about a razor cut is it's easy to style at home. Somebody cuts a more precision cut in your hair, it's great for you to style in the salon, but when you get home and you go to style it, it's a little bit harder because you don't have that precision blow dry happening. So it's really nice to have that flexibility in the haircut. So finishing up the last little bit, I want you guys to also see the shine, which is definitely coming from the Donald Scott Prepare and the Fast Form all at the same time. You're getting that kind of glossy look, but also see how the airflow is passing over top of the cuticle. I want to make sure anytime I'm blow drying that I'm blow drying the air down and not roughing up the cuticle, because that's when you lose the shine. This is hot off the press. This is a thermal protectant. So I put it in, I blow dry it into the hair for a minute, and then I'm going to use my iron to go over top of that. So the hot off the press is really just a protectant for all this heat that we're putting over the hair. So sometimes I like to use a comb during my iron work, and then sometimes I use a brush. In this case, the base and the mid shaft were really nice and smooth. I didn't have to do a lot of work, and because it's a textured feel to the look, I just really wanted to polish out those ends, but they didn't need to be completely straight and smoothed out. So I just go through with my paddle brush. Again, we're working with a quick technique. This is something that not only is quick for a hairstylist, but is quick for people to style at home as well. So I didn't want to get too fancy with how we're smoothing it out to show you guys that this looks good pretty quickly. So the last couple sections, you're going to notice that most of the time I'm taking diagonal sections to iron because that's going to give me the softest look. If I took a horizontal section across, you might see the indent from the iron. So now I'm going to go in with my working spray, which is worked up. It's a dry hairspray, which basically means that it's great for creating a little bit of texture. And also, if you're doing any type of iron work or anything like that, it's got great flexibility for that. So now I just put it in, give me a little bit of hold and control in the hair. And now I'm going to go through, again, this is a fresh blade on the carving comb from start to finish. So I can go through and do dry cutting because of that. If you think about a scissor, if we're doing slide cutting techniques, it's the same thing, but a razor blade is actually sharper than a scissor blade. It just is weaker, so it dulls quicker. So you want to make sure that you definitely have a fresh blade, and then you can go through and just slide your blade through there and remove some of that bulk and etch out the shape a little bit more. So a little bit more worked up throughout it. You can see I flipped the top fringe over. We cut it with a middle part so it allows that flexibility to go back and forth. And then I go in with the extra body finishing spray when I finally got the look exactly where I want it, and then I can set it into place. So there is our end result. This is the smooth look to it. You could see all that texture built into it. Very, very easy and quick to style it. And now what I'm going to do is I want to go in and use a curling iron on it real quick just to show you guys what that part would look like as well. Because this is a flexible look. It has that texture built into it, so it looks good straight or curly. So we're going through, I'm just using the curling iron. This is an 1.5 inch curling iron, and I'm going through and curling everything back off the face. You can see how it already kind of gives those textured ends because of the way that we cut it with the razor. And I'm just going to continue that same pattern throughout the top and the other side. So it's a really quick technique, but it gives you a really fun textured feel at the end. So I'll just run my hands through it a little bit. You'll see those curls come to life. The one thing that I want to shift from this style and why I'm kind of going in with the worked up
because it gives me that flexibility instead of going in with a finishing spray. And I'm just going to take my flat iron and flat iron a few of the end pieces, which will give me that texture and separation and also elongate the style for the end result. So hope you guys like the style. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching.
All right. So what'd you guys think of that one? That music came on real strong. Sometimes I'm like watching these videos back, and obviously this video I edited quite a while ago, and I'm better at editing now than I was then. And to hear that music come in at the end was a little loud, but what are you gonna do? So nice. So Ashley's saying, I promise I'm paying attention, but mad props to Brian for slaying the balayage in the background. Truth. Brian, if you guys didn't see in the video, Brian was busy coloring back there. Brian's a busy guy in the salon when the salon's open. So usually in the background of those videos back then, I was filming them in the salon. We only had 800 square feet. And it's actually kind of funny, like people talk about like they don't have the space or the time or whatever to do videos and to create content and stuff. But literally you can see our salon is going in the background, and I'm filming videos while clients are there, while staff is working, like while everything's happening, because you got to do it when you can do it. So I'm glad you guys liked that video. I want to keep everything going. The next video is going to be from Andrew Carruthers, all about how to prevent extra weight, like excess weight in your haircut. So I hope you guys are liking this Bob theme. Make sure that you share this video, please, on your Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, just hit the share button, share it to your Facebook, whatever it is. Let's just get this show out there so we can keep it growing. We already hit 100 comments 23 minutes into the show. So awesome. Love the conversation. Love that you guys keep going with it. All right, so let's get started. Here is the next video. You're going to love it. Here we go.
Hi everyone, Andrew Carruthers here, Education Director for Sam Villa. We're here in Montreal this week shooting editorial. We thought it'd be a great opportunity to step away from the camera and do a couple hot tip videos just for you. One of the really common challenges we face as hairdressers is weight. Weight shows up in so many places on haircuts, and it can create big challenges for having balance within the haircut. One of the really common places that we see it is when we're building graduation, especially something like a graduated bob. And so that's what we're going to look at. If you come over here to the doll head, you'll see I've cut this side of the head in the way that a lot of times it's done, where we do create a lot of weight sitting right behind the ear. And what happens is it's all about the shape of the head and what happens with your lower body position. Let me grab some combs to show you what happens with the head shape here. What you'll notice is from about here to here on the back of the head, we have a surface that has a really slight curve to it. It's a little flatter. And then right about here, for those of you that are familiar with Redken's PBD language, you have the corner back. Right at that point of the corner back, the head shape actually changes very significantly and heads forward. So from there to there, we have that little flat curve, but then right about here, you can see the direction of the head changes really significantly. So right there is usually where the challenge comes from. And part of it is us being stuck behind our guests when we're trying to walk through our shapes. If I keep my body position back here behind the head, the challenge will come because we have a natural tendency to draw things to us. If I hand you something, what do you do to it? You grab it from my hand and you pull it into your body. Well, same thing happens with hair. When you grab a section of hair, your natural tendency is to bring it to your body. So if your body is back here, that means that this hair that's actually more on the side of the head is going to need to be pulled towards the back of the head to be cut. So you can see if I bring this back, I have a lot of excess graduation, a lot of excess over direction. That's what creates that weight. Let me show you a little thing that I've found really helps to make sure that you don't build up that weight behind the ear. I'm going to use the Samvia 5 3/4 inch wet cutting shear. The reason I'm going to use this shear in particular is it's our shorter shear, so it's much easier for getting into these graduated shapes. We're going to work in vertical sections, and we're going to use the same elevation that we used on the other side, which is about 45 degrees. I'm going to take the fine teeth of the comb so I can really control the hair. Elevate to 45. I have a nice diagonal finger angle, and I'm using the same guide that I had from the other side. I'm going to come in and cut to that same exact guide from the other side so that you know that we have balance side to side. Maintain that 45-degree elevation. And follow the graduation down into the nape of the neck. On my next section, the body position will only have to shift just a slight step. I only need to move slightly to get into right body position because I want to bring it straight out to me. Now we still want to build a little bit of length as we build forward. That's what gives that nice shape into the jawline. If I overdirect too much, that's where I get my weight, so I need to find the balance. The balance is you get your body into the right position and you use your overdirection to control, not drag the hair. So I am still overdirecting just to the previously cut section, so I follow the head shape nicely and build length into the jawline. Overdirect back to my previously cut, find my guide, and then cut to my guide. Now, the one thing that I'm really liking too with these shears is we have that forward set thumb position. And that forward set thumb position allows me to not put my hand in nearly as an awkward position as usual when cutting these graduations. Because a lot of times what I see is, as I walk around the salon floor, I'm having to do a lot of correction with my stylist on body position. But if you look, everything's in a very natural body position here, and I'm not tweaking my wrist to get in and cut that hair. And a lot of that's because of that forward set thumb position. So here's where the challenge starts to begin. Now, I need to move my tripod instead of my body around my guest because otherwise I'm going to put my back to you. So if this was my guest, I would take a step to here so that I'm square with that corner. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and move her a little bit. And you'll see that was a lot of movement that I had to create to get into the proper body position in this corner. And that's exactly what happens is a lot of times we just don't move enough. Even if we've moved a little bit, we didn't move enough to get into the correct position. Make sure you keep the hair damp as you're working so that you have even porosity. As that hair dries, if you cut it after it's dried a little bit, of course, what's going to happen is you're going to have irregularity from side to side. If you cut the other side soaking wet and you cut this side about 50%, even that is going to cause imbalance side to side. So again, I have to move my body position a little bit more to make sure that I'm in the right position. And as you can see, I'm standing pretty much square to that portion of the head, almost as if I was going to bring it into natural fall. But what I do is I use my previously cut section, I comb from the outside in to create my overdirection to the previously cut section, and that's going to give me just the perfect amount of overdirection so that I still get the angle that I want without actually creating that excess bulk sitting right behind the ear. So as you can see, I still have that angle forward, but it's a much, much softer angle. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and dry this for you so that you can really see visually the difference side by side. All right, so we've done our blow dry. We used our Samvia 9-row finishing brush to give it a really nice bevel. And you can see what we have is a really nice flow to this line now. It doesn't have that weight and the bulk that we did on the other side. So let's compare that to that. Completely different, right? So you can see by making sure that we adjust our body position once we get to that corner back and really shift and step into the area that we need to be in, we can really lean that out behind the ear and give it a much nicer shape. Now, before we finish up, I do want to clarify one thing. We're not saying that you cannot use that technique of the strong over direction that we did on the other side. What we're saying is a lot of times we don't want that extra weight and we put it in there because we unknowingly put the extra weight into it through the over direction. So we really hope that that helps you. Make sure that you get nice, lean, very balanced shapes. I'm Andrew Carruthers for Sam Villa.
All right. So that's Andrew Carruthers, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. A couple things I took away from it. I really love the idea. So I've been thinking about this a lot because what tends to happen when I'm cutting a bob is, especially if I want to create a really nice outline, is that I end up with too much excess weight around the perimeter. So then I'm chopping through it quite a bit. And I actually, when I watched Josh DeMarco do it earlier in the earlier video, he had lower elevation. He had lower elevation like I usually do. But then when I watch other people, sometimes they have a little bit higher elevation as they come around this corner and they actually move into the corner a little bit. So as hairdressers, a lot of times we're taught stay away from that corner because then you get a hole, right? So the next video I'm going to show you guys is one way to keep away from that hole. But at the same time, sometimes we need to embrace the hole because it's creating a light air to it that allows us to have that kind of outer perimeter line that comes up a little bit and then into the bob. And if I have higher elevation, I get a softer, it's easier for me to cut into that line. I'm not chopping through a bunch of hair. So elevation can be your friend, especially in a bob as well. So looks like everybody liked it. Everybody's saying good morning. Everybody's saying great tips. Wow. All right, cool. Looks good. All right, so I want to keep the show going. Let's keep sharing it, guys. Keep posting it for us. And remember, at the end of this show, the one thing you have to do is go sign up for FSE Now, which is our app. It's an education app. This show goes on there every day. You create a profile all about your business, all about your work, your phone number, all of that, your Instagram handle. And you create a profile just like on Instagram. You add your photos in, and it puts it into a community feed so everybody can see your work. And then also you can learn at the same time. So really cool combination. And then that all goes onto a stylist locator website, which we created that allows customers, clients to search their area and find your profile. So, and then send you a message. So pretty cool tool for you guys to have. Let's see. What are we going to do next? Love your show. Lori, thanks so much. Time saver. I'm so excited like watching these videos all together. It's cool to combine all this stuff because not only is it different people thinking about things a little bit differently, but like I'm sitting here watching it and I'm watching how easy it was for me to cut that triangular bob with the razor. But then knowing that end result was so light around the outer perimeter that I could cut that with a razor and then detail my outer perimeter with a scissor. And I think I could get a really cool bob result. So I'm actually like, I'm thinking I jump off the show today and I might film that because I feel like something clicked in my head. And that's what I want this show to be about for you guys. I want it to be like, oh, that guy explained it the way I needed it. Like not just me, not just the videos that I made, or having multiple videos could spark something in any of you guys. So I hope that's what's happening. It seems like that's what's happening. I'm glad you like the show for sure. So let's keep it going. So make sure you share, guys. We're going to focus on not getting a hole in your haircuts now. So that's going to be the video. Let's get started. Here it is. Here we go. All right, guys, so I'm going to start off. I'm going to have Carly just kind of brush through the mannequin using the brush vertically. So this is the Ergo paddle brush. Using that brush vertically helps detangle the hair. And then I go in with the Paul Mitchell Neuro Prime. This is a blowout primer, basically, and it's a heat protectant. So I put that throughout the hair. Then I go in with my Invisible Wear Memory Shaper. That is a medium hold gel-like product. The reason I like using this on a haircut is it helps keep my sections clean, and then also putting it in prior to the haircut helps me get even saturation throughout the hair as I go through and cut it, and then when I go to blow it dry, I get the hold and shine that I'm looking for. So the last thing, we're gonna get into the sectioning. So the sectioning for this haircut is a center parting, and then we go straight down center back. Then I go in and create almost like a triangle section in the very front. The reason I like creating that triangle is because when you're cutting a bob, it's all about the natural fall to me. So when that triangle section of hair actually is hair that wants to fall forward, so I separate it from the rest of the hair that wants to fall onto the sides. So I hope that makes sense to you guys, but we will get into that more towards the end of the cut when we actually cut that section. Now, the next two sections that I create are both on the side of the head. And basically what I'm doing is those side panels want to fall straight down to the side, so I section them away. Sectioning is so important when you're going through a haircut. It's not about creating fun shapes and all of that. Every section that you make in a haircut should have a purpose. So I go through, those are two vertical rectangular panels that want to fall straight down, and we're going to use that later in the cut. Okay, so now we're going to go straight down center back, basically separating those two sides. Then I go straight across the occipital bone to right behind the ear. Now we're going to be doing a horizontal bob, so I want to work with horizontal lines as I go through and section it. So I'm going to do that on both sides. I also like to work back and forth when I cut a bob, because I like to make sure that both sides are balanced. Some people like to cut just one side, then move to the opposite side. I like to go both at the same time. And then now what you're going to see is I do a little tap with the scissor, which kind of bevels the hair in, and it shows me where the hair is going to sit best, right at the nape of the neck. I'm using the DB20 scissor from Mizutani. It's one of my favorite scissors. It's got a ball bearing screw, nano powder metal steel. You get a really consistent cut, consistent line when you use it. It's a really powerful scissor, which is also available on freesaloneducation.com. So I go through and I cut my baseline. Now, it's really important to make sure that you fine tune that line and make it exactly the way that you want it before you move on to the rest. Make sure it's balanced, because if it's not, you're starting off already losing when you're cutting a bob. So I want to make sure that it's nice and even. Also notice that I'm going in horizontally. So I want to talk about that a little bit. A lot of people don't cut bobs horizontally, and what I hear in a lot of classes is that they don't cut bobs horizontally because they feel like that stacks it up too much, it gets too heavy. Well, the reason that happens, and the reason I'm not going to do this entire cut horizontally, is because once you get above the occipital bone and you're cutting horizontally, your hand tends to want to sit lower on the head. Okay, so another thing that I want you guys to pay attention to is as I over direct the hair back, when it gets to the corner, you'll see that there's a little bit of a disconnection. That disconnection I want to happen because I'm over directing the hair back, passing where you would think would be the guideline, where a lot of people would kind of tuck their hand in, but that's how you end up with a hole. So I like to over direct everything back, create that disconnection, then go in and fine tune the line again, following that guideline that we created from the beginning. That's just a technique that I like to do. It saves me from ever having a hole in the haircut, and it just pushes that little bit of extra weight where it would be a little bit weaker that I can go in and detail after I cut it. So now I go in, take another section. I move about an inch up the head shape, half inch if they have high density, and then I continue taking horizontal panels. I'm working my way all the way up the head until I get to the low crown. Then I'm going to switch to vertical partings. So just taking a little bit of the new hair, a lot of the old hair, just bringing that into my hand, finding a clean guideline, and again, creating that square back. So just a straight line in the back, which creates that disconnection behind the ear, which you can see as I drop it right there. But then I'll go in and fine tune it and cut my line afterwards.
So horizontal section, see the elevation coming off. If you notice where 90 degrees would be coming off of that section, I'm at about 45 degrees. That's a nice medium graduation. So that's the consistency that I want throughout this entire cut. Extra over direction, the head shape around the ear kind of peels in, so you get that extra over direction, which creates that disconnection at the bottom. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to fine tune it. Also notice that I had a little small hair that was missed in that part of the cut. So I go back and I cut it the exact same way. I don't just chop off that piece of hair when I see it fall down. And now I clean off that disconnection, gives me a nice thick feeling right behind the ear. And you can see that we're creating a very nice balanced shape. So now I want to break up this section, but I'm going to start working vertically. And the reason I want to work vertically is because if I continued to work up the head shape horizontally, my hand would want to fall down. And if my hand drops, my elevation drops, and then I end up with too heavy of a bob in the end result. So I go in vertically because that allows me to really focus on the weight distribution in the vertical part of the haircut. So how much do I want to stack this bob up? How light do I want it to be? Do I want it to be layered? Do I want it to be more graduated? I can really control that. Now the hard part becomes controlling your over direction. So as I take each vertical parting, I want to make sure it's coming straight back from the head, just like I was doing when I was cutting it horizontally, so I still continue to get the same exact shape, using the bottom part of the haircut as my guideline. So now you'll see that I kind of create my own line because I still don't want to follow that curve down. So I still create a disconnection that I can go in and then clean off later on. So continuing down center back, vertical parting, you can see that the very top part of that section is at about 0 degrees. So right where my fingertips are. But then everything from below my fingertips is definitely at a higher elevation. So you get a nice light feel, but then you get that little bit of a bevel, the heaviness that kind of sits right at the top of the occipital bone. That's where we want it to live for this haircut. Really balances the head shape. You can see my guide very cleanly throughout. That's very important, so make sure that you're not taking too thick of sections as you work your way through. And everything is coming straight back. I like to pretend like I'm sitting in a box, so nothing goes outside that box. That allows me to create a square shape in the haircut. And then I go through and I clean off that line, that disconnection that we created. Now, if you wanted to create more of a triangular feel to the haircut, then you could continue to extend that over direction back and then grow the length into the front. But I'm not looking to create a square or a triangular graduation in this particular haircut. So now one thing you're going to notice that I switch up is the fact that my fingers are now pointing down. I've talked about this many times in many videos, but those of you that are watching for the first time, the reason you want to do that is you always want to be combing the new hair to the guideline. Whether I've said that 100 times or not, and you've heard it 100 times, it's that important because anytime you're inconsistent with how you comb the hair. So if I comb the hair one way and I'm taking the new hair to the guide over and over again on one side, and then I switch to the opposite side, and now I'm combing the guide to the new hair, I'm stretching the guide from where it wants to be, where it is guiding me to. I'm moving that and shortening the guide, so then I end up with one side of my bob shorter than the other. So it's really important to make sure that you're always combing consistently. So with pointing my fingers down, it forces me to then comb the hair towards the inside. But doing everything exactly the same, following the guide initially from the center, so what we had cut previously, and then I work my way through to the behind the ear. Go through and I check horizontally just to make sure that my line looks good. It should look square in the back. It shouldn't have any angle to it when you pull it out. If it does, then you got to go back through and cut it. You don't want to just cut that top portion that you check horizontally because then you're not cutting the rest that's underneath it. So you want to make sure if you're
your cross check, your horizontal check on this particular part of the haircut. If it doesn't line up, then you got to go back through vertically and fix it. All right, just finishing up this side. Also notice how I comb the old hair out of the way. So I'll take a little bit of my guide, push the rest of it out of the way. It's just to keep everything nice and clean. You know, I'm not the cleanest person in most things, but with hair cutting, I like to keep it very clean and structured. That gives me the best result. Keeping it nice and organized, you can see how that's all coming together. To me, cutting a bob isn't a difficult thing. What makes it difficult is just not being consistent. So now I'm going through, I'm combing everything down, still no tension on the haircut because I want to cut that line first. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to work horizontally again across, and I just want to do a slight elevation. Now, we're working on pretty much a flat surface until we get to the parietal ridge. So a slight over direction keeps it at about a 45-degree angle, gives me a nice soft bevel right around the chin line or the jawbone. So as I'm kind of getting that to bevel around it, gives a nice shape to the haircut as well. As I work up the head shape, you'll notice my elevation goes up just a little bit more. That's just to keep a consistent flow to the elevation, to that bevel on the haircut. So you can see that's pretty much the end result of the right-hand side. Now you can see the consistency in it. You can see that it follows that jawline really well. I like this for anybody with like kind of an oval-shaped face. Anybody that has more of a rounded face, I like to drop it just below the jawline, maybe an inch below it, because it helps elongate the face a bit. Also, somebody that has a square face works really well to drop it a little bit below as well. So same thing on this side, 45-degree elevation, working my way up the side of the head. So real quick, Peggy has a question, so I want to send it over here and kind of breaking news on this video. But Peggy's asking, when you get to the sides, are you pulling back to the previously cut line or base? Hopefully that makes sense. So what she's saying is, prior to that, when we were in the back, when I get to behind the ear, am I over directing it straight back to the previous section? And yes, that is the answer. Yes, I was. So anytime I'm working towards behind the ear, that's what happens, and that's what we do. All right, continuing on. And notice that every time I move up the head shape, my elevation is shifting. So now it's higher than it was when I first started. Again, just to balance that weight distribution. Now I go through and just check it vertically to make sure that I have the elevation I'm looking for. You can see a nice 45-degree angle when we look at it vertically. So I comb all of that out, clean it up, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. So now here's a quick tip video all in itself for you guys. What I want to do is I want to cut the front of this haircut. She's going to wear it straight down the center. So what I want to do is build a heavy center point and be able to have a nice flow backwards within this haircut so she could flip it one way or the other. So what I did was I took a guideline from the parietal ridge. So I find that there. Now I'm going to create basically a stationary guide that connects it to the one side. I take diagonal forward partings all the way across that fringe area, that triangle that we created, and I cut it right at that stationary guide. I work my way all the way through, same elevation, same everything. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross it. I'm going to go to the opposite side and do the exact same thing. So you can see my elevation doesn't change, still cutting palm to palm. Now that's the angle that we've created on the one side. Now we're going to go back, create the same exact thing, which will make the heaviest point in the very center.
So still diagonal forward parting, over directing it to a stationary guide and working my way through. It also balances both sides because you're taking a guide from each side and then you're connecting the whole thing together. So you can see how the heaviest point is right in the center. So when she brushes it back, she's going to wear it down the center, but she could flip it from side to side, but it gives it a nice flow and a nice even feel to the very front. So now we're going to use the Paul Mitchell Neuro Halo blow dryer. This is a really cool blow dryer because it has a fully digital top, which has all the heat settings, the airflow setting, the ion settings, and you can adjust everything through it. It's also got a magnetic air filter in the very back of the blow dryer, and it gives you an alert when it needs to be cleaned. So you just pop that magnetic filter off, clean it up, and you're good to go. That's probably the biggest destroyer of a blow dryer is not keeping it clean. This blow dryer makes it nice and easy. So I'm using my Ergo paddle brush, also available on freesaloneducation.com. I'm flat wrapping it around. Then I'm going to go in with the new Neuro Halo iron to smooth out the style. Then I'm going to go into a little bit of detail work dry in this haircut as well. So just going through, this thing heats up super fast. It's got titanium plates. It's a really cool digital the inside is all digital, so that's a really cool feature as well. Everything's touch-based, so really like that iron. Now I go through, I'm using, again, my DB20 scissor, and I'm working the perimeter line of the haircut. So this I already cut wet, so I have a pretty good line to start with. So I just want to fine-tune that line going through and detailing it. Now, I think a lot of people cut corners on this kind of stuff, and they don't do all this detail work. The detail work at the end of a bob is the most important thing. It's what puts the stamp on your haircut. It's what makes it unique. So definitely make sure that that's a focus of yours in the salon. Make time for that. So this is the finished style. You can see it sits right at that jawline. It's got a nice clean line to it. Really love this cut. Let me know if you love it in the comments below. Also, anything you'd like. All right. That came quick. Here we are. Here we're back. Okay. What's up, guys? So that video, that one is one of my favorites that I've created out of all, 900 videos that I've created on the internet. That one is absolutely one of my favorites. So make sure you guys, I have been getting the messages. You guys are texting, you're calling. I'm seeing the voicemails. So I have a voicemail right here. That's what I was doing. I was trying to see what it said. So let's see if I can play it.
The show was very informative. Josh had a great way of teaching, but still like Matt's way of teaching.
That's very nice.
You wanted, I don't know, maybe you didn't want to comment other than the show today, but I'm still asking for you to do natural gray hair coverage with tint, whether it be semi-permanent or permanent. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
All right. See? That's all you guys have to do. That was a nice message. And I get it straight to my phone. So you can text, call, do whatever you want right there. Thank you for leaving the message. And I love hearing the nice things about the show. Cool. So I got one more video for you guys. It's going to be about a graduated bob. Now, this show had a theme, so it's a little harder to do requests. I did have a request for a men's highlight. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to guarantee that video tomorrow on the show. So 12 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you tune in, whoever requested that. A couple people were psyched about that. So tomorrow, I already got it loaded up, and it's processing, and it's getting ready for tomorrow. So men's highlight will be one of the videos tomorrow, but today we're dedicating it to bobs, and I got one video left. You guys have killed this show. We got 520 people on live right now. We're reaching thousands of people a day on this show, so I can't thank you guys enough for helping grow this thing and hitting that share button. You guys are destroying it. One more video. Here it is. Let's go.
All right, guys, so we're going to start off this haircut by taking a right-hand side parting down to mid-crown, then across mid-crown, and down the parietal ridge. What this is going to do is give me a little bit of an offset, kind of asymmetrical rectangle on the top of the head. Then I go straight down center back and separate the two sides, clip it away, and now I'm going to work diagonal forward partings and start my cutting. So I want to work with the head shape here. The whole point of that is I'm collapsing the shape, so we're creating more of a layered bob. This is from a previous haircut where we did a complete horizontal graduated bob. Now we're switching it to a vertical diagonal forward layered bob, which is going to take out a lot of the weight in the haircut. So depending on how your guest wants to wear their hair, there's two different options for you. So just bringing everything straight back to the previous section. So I'm working my way across the back, just bringing it back slightly, about an inch back to the previous parting to make my cut. Now I work vertically, so I shift from diagonal forward to vertical when I get to right behind the ear, and I work that all the way back, bringing everything straight back to a stationary guide at this point. What this is going to do is push a ton of weight to the front, so that's something that we're going to address later in the haircut, but just keep that in mind. When you're over-directing something all the way back to a stationary guide, you're going to have a lot of weight as the end result when the hair falls forward. So working diagonal forward, still the big switch here is that my fingers are now pointing down. On the other side, my fingers were pointing up. The reason for that is it allows me to comb my new hair towards the middle of the head, towards the guide. We talked about this over and over again, you never want to comb the guide to the new hair because that shifts the guide from where it lives. And if you do that, you're making the guide shorter, which is going to make one side of your haircut shorter. So to keep consistent, you need to comb the hair the same exact way on both sides of the head. So working vertically, another key thing to look at is how the head shape curves up around the crown. That's obviously going to give us our graduated point. So we're layering the hair past the occipital bone to low crown, and then when we get to the mid crown part, you can see that the elevation of the hair is actually more at a 0-degree angle, so that's going to give us our weight line there. Bringing everything straight back, pushing that weight forward, just keeping nice clean sections. I'm using the fine teeth of the comb. That's helping keep more tension on the hair, and that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple structured haircut. And I think that this is a very common haircut that you'll see people doing in the salon. The big thing that I want to go over in a little bit is how we can kind of make adjustments to that to make it have a more modern feel. So we're going to go through the back. We're going to work diagonal back through the crown area. What I want to do is take and just blend in the crown to the bottom, more around the high occipital bone area. So I'll take my guide from top of the occipital bone and then just follow it straight up. So keeping that weight line in there, but just blending it a bit. Everything's being over-directed back to that one point. So you can see that there's a slight bit of over-direction coming away from me, which is going to push that kind of weight around the corner, and it's going to be a little bit longer right behind the ear, which I like that feeling. So everything's going to come back to that guide. It's going to be stationary there. So you can see in the bottom left diagram how I kind of angle the haircut. So we're cutting short to long, just keeping a little bit of extra length in there. And you comb everything back until you run out of hair, and then you're good to go. All right, guys, so we're going to start off in our dry cutting portion of the haircut. I'm going through with my VibraStraight iron, just polishing out the ends of the haircut. What this is doing is allowing me to see where the weight seems heavy and where we need to go in and just lighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to take a horizontal section throughout the side. I already noticed that this side is heavy. The sides are going to be heavy because we over-directed everything back to a stationary guide. So now I want to go through and diffuse the weight. So I go through horizontal, elevate the hair as high as I possibly can, and just work. I'm using a Mizutani Puffin dry cutting scissor. I love this scissor. It's a 5.5-inch blade. It goes in nice and deep into the section and just diffuses any weight that's built up that I don't want. So going through horizontally in the back as well, doing the same thing, elevating it nice and high, not trying to take or create a line at this point, just diffusing some of the weight. So what I'll do is I'll take that section, I'll actually look in there and see where the density seems heaviest. And then if I see a really dense spot, that's where I'll do most of my point cutting. So I'm not going through there evenly and cutting. I'm going through there and actually visually looking to see where it's really heavy. So right there, you can see that part's heavy. So I'm going to go through and diffuse that a little bit. Same thing on the top, work that line out a little bit, go a little bit deeper, just removing that weight, creating that texture and a lot of movement, and modernizing the haircut. So same thing here, going through, you can see how the ends, you can see light through there. And then as it gets a little bit deeper, it's more dense. So you're just going in there and polishing and removing that. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to actually cut a line, but a nice broken line, because I want to create a more side angled fringe in the front. Nothing crazy. I'm not trying to create a short bang in the haircut, but just something soft that lays across her cheekbone. So working diagonal forward section, over directing it to myself, to a stationary guide, but the guide is really diffused because we're doing some deep point cutting there. Now going through slide cutting using the same scissor. This is a good look at the Mizutani Puffin, just going through, gliding through the hair. The reason a dry cutting scissor is so good is because the blade is so thick that it has a ton of power when you go in to cut hair. So it can get through pretty much anything, and that's what makes it a great dry cutting scissor. So I'm just going through, you can see how I push the top away and then I slide cut and then I pull the top back around. That's because I wanted to almost disconnect the underneath. You don't have to go through and slide cut the entire side of the head. What you want to do is go in and just diffuse the bottom, then push the top over, and it makes it look nice and soft. Then I'll go through a little tease cutting, connect it all together. Same thing on the opposite side, just going through slide cutting just to break up and add that texture into the haircut. I'm always going through and working with my hands. When I move it with my hands, it just allows me to see kind of how it's going to fall and how that texture is going to move within the haircut. The last thing I'm going to do, I got my Mizutani Type Z dual texture scissor. So both sides have teeth. And I just go through and glide into the back portion just to add, again, more texture and movement. And then I always blow out the hair to get all those loose hairs out of it, and to kind of bring life back into the haircut. That's how I see it. So we're going through, I've got the Ergo paddle brush working through it, and then I just finish it with a little bit of hairspray, and she is good to go. So I hope you guys like this haircut. If you do, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you want to see next. Thanks for watching.
All right. So that was a fun haircut. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes I watch these cuts, and this is probably the first one of this show in the last 11 episodes that I watched, and I was like, I could have done that a little different. But what I did love about it is the techniques involved, like thinning out little areas, picking the hair up, obviously changing it from graduation to layering, going through doing that layering technique on the top. The only thing I would have done is really work the outer perimeter, because I did see a kind of a little hole in there. So, and holes are fine, but you got to refine everything and make it go together. And that's something that maybe I didn't know then, that I wasn't, trained on doing or hadn't studied up and learned that. So, this show's all about all of us growing together. So, let's see. Everybody. So I'm glad you guys all love it. I can see it all. I can see all your comments. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of it. Lynn, Kristen, Jean, Viviana. Viviana's, I understand Ola, so hello. Let's see. Yeah, Farah, Shelly, I see all of you guys. Thank you so much for all the nice words. I hope you guys liked the Bob show today, the theme of the show. I think what I'm going to do based on the requests that I've seen today is short hair. Short hair tomorrow. We're going to focus on pixie cuts, men's stuff. I'm going to do the men's highlight. Maybe I'll see what I can stir up for short hair for tomorrow's show. I think that's going to be super fun. Let's see. Lynn saying love the show. Awesome. I don't see any trying to see if I like to pull up some of your questions at the end of the show. I do want to say that you guys did destroy today in the comments and in the sharing. So we live to do the show another day, and we'll keep doing it. Sandra, you're very welcome. Shelly's saying, I'd like to see short hair trends. Shelly, you got it. Tomorrow's the day. I'm pushing the wrong thing. There we go. Now, goal, absolutely lovable. All right. Shelly, love it. Ashley, love it. Thank you so much for your time. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Kristen, sounds exciting. Awesome. Sue, thanks, Matt. Peggy, love this show. Thank you. You're very welcome. Awesome. Lynn, love the show. All right. Sweet. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Make sure that you're texting me and make sure that you go download the FSE Now app. Let's take a look at that one more time before we go. Right here. Here we go. Another really awesome day with you guys. Thank you so much for being so awesome. Enjoy your day. And what do we say at the end of the show? Every single time, it's going to be a great day. Enjoy your day. Thanks so much.
It's gonna be a great day. Chop it, clip it, spray it, flip it. I woke up this way. It's gonna be a great day. Chop it, clip it, spray it, flip it. Let me show you the way. It's gonna be a great day. Chop it, clip it, spray it, flip it. I woke up this way. It's gonna be a great day. Chop it, clip it, spray it, flip it.